Good evening, good evening, good evening. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mind Your Mind Mondays with your host, Dr. Kim. I'm so excited about this evening. I'm so excited about our topic. Let me know that you're here. Hit like, hit share, let everybody know that it is Mind Your Mind Monday time. I'm not sure if my volume is up. Okay, it's up. So you should be able to hear me. So I'm Dr. Kim. I'm your host. What is Mind Your Mind Mondays? Mind Your Mind Mondays is a time that we come and have a conversation. We bring the discussion about mental health and awareness to the streets. We take it to the social media streets, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. And this all started with the fact that many people go through so many transitions as it relates to like mental health, mental illness, wealth, mental health, and awareness. And so we wanted to have a conversation because I know, just being in the field, that there's a stigma. There's a stigma between the faith-based community and psychology. So I wanted to be able to bridge the gap between the two. And so that's why we came out with Mind Your Mind Monday, so that we can have discussions, we can bring experts in these areas and field as it relates to mental health and wellness, and also just to make you aware of our different areas of mental health. And so tonight I'm so excited. We're talking about a topic that is just really passionate. I'm very passionate about it, beyond the fact of being passionate about mental health. And so I brought a special guest on who she's going to share a little bit of her story. So she has literally walked through this process. Tonight, our topic is on grief. It's on grief. And we're going to be talking about it. We're going to be taking questions. So if you have questions, please feel free to put your questions in the chat. Also, say hello. Let us know that you're here. And so let me tell you a little bit about our guest. Our guest is Minister Charlene Smith. She's a mother, a grandmother, a minister, a life coach, author, podcast host, and empowerment speaker. She utilizes her gift to inspire women and men to maximize their full potential by taking ownership of their lives through spiritual and personal development. Her platforms include conferences, coaching webinars and seminars, and a bi-weekly podcast. And we're going to give her a minute. She's going to tell you a little bit more about herself. And then finally, Charlene's first priority is to her family, as this is her first ministry. And she has an affinity for teaching and preaching the word of God from a place of love and compassion. And so without further ado, I would like to welcome our special guest and help me welcome her, Minister Charlene Smith. Uh-oh. You know what, you guys? I accidentally deleted her out of the studio. Let me tell you something. This social media stuff, it's not for the faint of heart, okay? It's not for the faint of heart. Every week I'm like, I'm not going to do this anymore because it's always like some technical difficulty, something new to learn. Like the last 2 weeks, I wasn't able to see comments on Facebook. I only could comment on YouTube. So we're going to get Charlene back in the studio. And again, if you're out there, say hello. Let us know that you're here. Greet us. Hit like, hit share. And we are going to be talking about grief. We are going to be talking about grief. Let me add Charlene to the stage.
I don't know what happened.
It was me. I deleted you.
What just happened?
I deleted you. I was like, yeah, we're going to welcome Minister Charlene Smith to the stage.
And went blank.
And just like that, she's out of here. She is out of here.
Well, you know what? I'm back.
Well, welcome back. Welcome back. So listen, I want you to tell our listening audience a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, And we'll start there. Let's hear who is Minister Charlene Smith and what does she do?
You know what? I wear so many hats that it's it's mind-boggling, But but I just thank God for the grace to carry all them hats and to wear all those hats. But most and foremost, I am a Jesus girl. I love all things Jesus, all things God. And but to stay on topic, I am more of just based off of past experience and recent experience is that, I want to see people not stay in the pit, that pause and transition. Um, I deal with that with my family, with my, my grandkids, my kids, my extended family. I don't want them to stay in that pause and transition. So I am so many different things, but like I said, most importantly, anyone that should know about me is that I'm a Jesus girl. I am a Jesus girl. I cannot hear you. Did you go on mute?
All right, Jesus girl. Look, I'm just making all the blunders tonight. How about that? All the blunders. So yes, yes, yes. So listen, um, Mind Your Mind Mondays is, of course, you already know, a platform to just kind of bridge the gap between the faith-based community and psychology and have those hard conversations about mental health and wellness, and also to bring discussion to our listening audience because, people really are going through things and they're afraid to talk about it. They're afraid to open up. And so I figured if I can bring a platform out here and we can bring out different speakers and guests and experts in different areas to kind of talk about it, that
Mhm.
people can relate and realize, what, it's okay. If I need to talk to somebody, it's okay. If I need to just put a routine in place, meaning I just need to go exercise for 30 minutes every other day or something, I'm going to be okay, but something regarding taking care of your mental health and your well-being. And so tonight's topic is grief. Tonight's topic is grief. Welcome, Princess. Tonight's topic is grief. And I know that you kind of walked through that process. So would you mind sharing a little bit of your testimony as it relates to grief?
Yeah, I'm not going to say kind of. I have walked through it. I'm still walking through it because grief comes in waves, you know. Um, but a part of what I go through is the fact that everyone knows, well, a lot of people know that is connected with me is that my son transitioned back on August 9th of 2022 due to a vehicle accident that he did not recover from his injuries. He was only 31, had not been 31 for 30 days. I mean, it wasn't even, I mean, it was maybe less than 2 weeks. He had turned 31. But that whole experience right there, he was my firstborn, my only son. He left behind two beautiful, beautiful boys. And it was very hard because I had my son at 19. So we grew together. So it was different than versus with my girls. Um, because I was in my second year of college, had him. He was like, all the mistakes that you can make as a mother. He, he got it, you know what I'm saying? But but it was a wonderful and it was a wonderful experience to have him. But going through this, it was it was it was a lot of legality issues that I ran across that made it even more grievous.
Mm-hmm.
And then once everything happened with my son, I started to, as a life coach, I'm a researcher at heart. So I started to research grief. And that's when I found out it was 16 different types of grief
Mm-hmm.
and not all dealing with a loss of a
Mm-hmm.
physical well-being. And in that midst of it, I'm studying this, but then I'm learning some of the do's and don'ts of grief. Some of the do's and don'ts of what to say, when to say it, not to say it,
Mm-hmm.
just let it slide. Um, But one thing I could say is that during all of this is that I've been very conscientious of my mental state.
Okay.
So with that, when I feel myself coming down and going down into that trench, that pit that I spoke of earlier, that's when I reach out to those that are within my support group.
Mm-hmm.
I go and get a therapist. It depends upon how far down I am. I need to go, and I'm thankful to be able to have that therapy available to me through my job.
Oh yeah, EAP.
Yeah. So and I've utilized it. And, my son, he's been gone now for almost 3 years. So I've used it several times. But also, under teaching other people what to say, what not to say in that initial moment. Because one of the things that I found in the initial moment is that a lot of people say they mean well, they very well mean well, but also they say things that are cliche, and it's not the time to say it. Well, I've had people say, "Oh, he's in a better place as a mother right now. His better place is with me." Let's take the spiritual side out of it. Like, as a mother, you want your child with you because you want to protect them, you want to love them, and all of that. Then I had people that said that be strong. Now I have to put on a face for you because of your uncomfortability with my grief. And then I had someone say, "Oh, didn't she just get ordained as a minister? Well, she'll be okay. Are you serious?" So different things like that I had to deal with mentally and really come to grips, because it made me, 380 mad.
Not 380.
Not 380.
Not 380 mad.
I was 380 ready to go and grab the Smith & Wesson. Mad. I was mad. And that's when I knew. I said, "Oh, I got to go talk to somebody."
We can't be, Charlene Smith cannot be using the Smith & Wesson.
Exactly. Hey, I'm Smith, but we're gonna leave the Wesson at home. We're gonna leave the Wesson somewhere else. But yeah, that's part of what I've been through, is just really navigating this grief journey. And one of the things that God gave me, he deals with me in acronyms, and he gave me grief. And in grief, it's spelled GRIEF, right? So it says God recovers in every feeling. God restores.
Wait. I gotta.
Yeah. So it's really God restores in every feeling. Every feeling that you feel going through grief, God restores it. So yeah, I know, Kiana. Yeah, 380 mad, honey. I was ready to pull the pistol out.
So God restores in every
feeling. That's what the acronym that he gave me for grief. Because I said, "God, where are you in grief?" And then he took me back to when his son, he sacrificed his son for us, for humanity. And then he even took me back even further to where the Mother Mary, okay, the Mother Mary, as a mother, when the Holy Spirit came over her and she became impregnated with Jesus, our Savior, he didn't tell her how it was going to go.
Right.
He said, "You are going to be the mother of the Savior that saves humanity." And then when you go back and look at it, you be like, "Wait a minute, she had to watch this man carry his own cross to his death." She had to watch them put the thorns into a skull that was an inch down into a skull. She had to watch and see his body being whipped, and from the whip, with everything, the glass and all of that stuff in there. God didn't tell her in the beginning what was going to happen.
Right.
And I'm
Right.
not equating my son as Jesus Christ,
I understand.
but just come from a human standpoint and from a mother to a mother.
Looking at somebody else who have gone through it, you know, even on another level.
On a whole nother level, a whole nother
And you
level.
dying for what somebody else did. This ain't even what you did. And you carrying the cross for somebody else. For me.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you. Hallelujah.
I mean, and we glorify God for that. You know what I'm saying? We glorify him for that. But my thing is with my son, I said, okay, what can I purpose his life in his since he's gone, what can I do to bring honor to his life? My son was very much in community service. He was very much in love and family. He was very much in love with his boys. How can I honor his memory in the way that he did to keep his memory alive?
Mm-hmm. So would you say that honoring your loved one's memory is a way to help deal with grief?
It's a very much so. It's very helpful. It's very helpful because one of the last community service he did, which was the day before he got into his accident, was a backpack drive. So last year with Breaking the Mold, I collaborated with someone to do a backpack drive with the nonprofit organization, and we're going to collaborate again this year.
Oh,
You know,
good.
so different things like that to make me feel closer to my loved one, make me feel closer to my son. That hey, I need to be able to honor him in his life. That his life wasn't in vain. That he has passed on a legacy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, I involve his boys. Hey, he's passed on a legacy, so you have a legacy to continue. Because a lot of people talk about legacy, and they normally talk about it in monetary,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
wisdom, and the lifestyle. How you're going to honor your loved one when they're transitioned on. I don't know about you, but I know I've heard where, hey, my family on my mom's side and on her father's side, we're the youngs, right? And they say
Mm-hmm.
that's not the way a young responds to different things. That's not the way the youngs act.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you representing for your loved one when they transition on? So are you representing, the dogmatic style of them? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Or what are you doing? What are you doing? Are you bringing the best version of them? You're keeping that alive. Not saying that you're going to idolize that person,
Right.
build an altar for that person. I'm not saying that. Please, by all means, do not build an altar. So do not make them an idol to where you're trying to get a seance, all that. Oh, I'm telling you, I've heard some things during this journey. And I'm like, yeah, no, I don't want to.
No, thank you. Not it.
Yeah, exactly. But I just try to be present. I just try to be present for my family, because I know with grief, it could take you down a rabbit hole where
Yeah.
you start to isolate yourself, become a recluse. I found myself within the last year becoming a recluse.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be around people.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to just stay in my bubble. But now God has me really like pushing out, pushing out, pushing out, pushing out. And I'm taking it slow because it takes a lot of energy to be around people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm an introvert by nature, but you wouldn't think it. You would think I would be an extrovert, but no, I'm really an introvert by nature. But I'm like, oh my God, I gotta go be around people.
Yeah. I want to take it back to what you were saying in the beginning. And before I do that, I just want to give a shout out to some of our listening audience. Again, hello, Princess. Welcome, Yvette Shields, Kiana Johnson, RTA in the house. Donita Seals Washington. I'm going to have to get Donita on here. She too lost her son, and she wrote a book about it. And I should have brought the book upstairs. About her experience and her journey. We also have Dr. Aquanita, RTA in the house. And then we have Don Love, RTA. So you guys, welcome, welcome, welcome. But I want to take it back to, you were talking about like some of the crazy things that people say at the beginning. And, one, grief is awkward. And a lot of the times we don't know what to say, because what we do is we normally process how we respond or act to how we would prefer someone to respond to us. So if we don't want to be bothered, in our mind, we'll say, oh, they don't want to be bothered, I'll just wait. But you don't know. So what the point I want to bring out is that there is no one size fit all when it comes to grief and how to respond and what to say to people, because you may want people to get out your face and don't say anything to you. Somebody else may want my condolences. Oh, I'm so sorry. But I will say that a lot of people do say that they don't want to hear what you call the churchy cliche, because a lot of the times, that's what you'll get. I know in my experience of losing my mother, I didn't have too many people come out of pocket. Like the average person was, Kim, I'm so sorry, or I'm sending my condolences, or I'm praying for you and your family, you and your siblings. Those are some of the general ones that don't go, left or right. But you really don't know, because each person is different. And what I thought I would maybe want if something like this happened, I found that in the middle of grief, I wanted something totally different. I'm a people's person by nature. I'm an extrovert by nature. But then I found myself isolating myself and becoming withdrawn. And although I wanted people around and I wanted to have the whole whatever, at the same time, I was nervous about being around people because I didn't know if I was going to have an explosion. Because you said, and it is true, grief comes in waves. Yeah. When my grandmother passed, I didn't cry for maybe 2 or 3 years. And then one day I was just laying in the bed and I just bust out crying and I started thinking about her. Mm-hmm. I didn't even cry at the news. I didn't cry at the funeral, but then boom, out of nowhere. And so I do want to speak that to our audience that, read the room.
That's
read
it.
Read the room.
Yeah, that's it.
And then know your person. Know your person.
One of the things I say,
know your person.
One of the things I say and that I've learned is practice the ministry of presence. Because the person that's grieving will, and that's where you have to be able to read the person, read their actions or non-action. They will dictate to you what they need. Because when you are going through a grieving process, you sometimes don't know what you need.
You don't.
Right? So I remember one person asked me, they said, well, what do you need? I said, I don't know. I know what I want, but I don't know what I need right now. Mm-hmm. And you know what? That's an honest answer. Mm-hmm. But not everybody that asks their question can handle that answer. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I remember when my sister lost her husband back in 2019. They had been together for 26 years, right? I've never lost a spouse. So I came to her and I told her, I said, I don't know how you feel. Mm-hmm. I don't know what you need, but you let me know what you need, right? I just watched her. I listened to what she says. And even if it wasn't a direct request, I took ownership of when the words were spoken. Mm-hmm. Find a funeral home. Mm-hmm. She had to get, I started fielding her calls, different things. You can just step into place. I know someone that I know that lost their father a year ago, and a person called them and text them and said, hey, I love you. I know you don't know what you need at this moment, but I got you. They wind up sending groceries to their house. You don't have to wait for the person to ask. It's that when you're dealing with someone that you're close to in grieving, sometimes you have to come out of self and really look at what the person needs without them actually saying what they need. That's how you
Yeah.
know your person.
Because some days I just needed somebody to just be here. Not necessarily you don't have to talk, you don't have to say nothing. Just come up here and watch Matlock with me.
Exactly. I know you love you some Matlock.
Anyone in our listening audience, if you have a question, please put the question in the chat and we will try to address it. One of the things I wanted to talk about was we kind of talked about people responding to someone that is grieving. Eventually I want to go into like the different types of grief, but I don't want to go there yet. I do want to talk about you talk about setting up idols and things of that nature, set memorials, how some people set up idols. We're saying that's a no, idols are no. But one of the things that helped me in my process was deciding that I was not going to grieve because. And when I say that, I mean, it's the first Christmas with my mom. I'm going to be sad and depressed. It's her first birthday without her. I'm going to be sad and depressed. So sometimes what we do is we set anniversaries. We set grieving and depression and anxiety anniversaries around our grief. Whether your grief is a loss of because of divorce, a loss because of a break in a relationship, whether it's a loss of transition of life, whatever it is, a loss of job, we will set anniversaries around that. And for that is not mentally healthy. And I'm not saying, I said, if Christmas come and I just happen to have a moment or be sad, I'm going to lean into that moment. I'll lean into that moment, but I'm not going to rest and park there and set up a whole new tombstone on Christmas, on New Year's Eve, on Easter, on my birthday, or but if I happen to be sad or I have a moment, have it, but I'm not going to plan to have the moment. And a lot of the times people who are grieving, that's one of the things that happens. We plan to be sad about something that's related to the grief, the loss, especially of a loved one.
I call it setting an appointment.
Okay, setting an appointment.
You setting an appointment because I know my the first Christmas that and that was one of my son's favorite holidays because he loves giving gifts. He want to see the reaction, when you open up the gift because he was one of those millennials, got the phone out, record everything. But it was a great Christmas. And then the next Christmas, I was looking forward to it, and it was the worst Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
This past Christmas, I was missing my son early, so I put the tree up early. I put it in October. Okay. So it's different. It's different. And then two, what I find, I don't set an appointment. Like his birthday, we do a whole big celebration, for his birthday because I'm celebrating his life. The anniversary or the day that he transitioned, I don't know what I'm gonna do from one year to the other. The first year I went skydiving. Last year I went to different restaurants. I don't know what I'm gonna do this year to commemorate his memory. I want to go out and do something that he and I always would do, but I don't know what that looks like right now. So I'm not setting myself up to be sad. I want to be like, you know what? Hey, I know my son, he would have loved doing this and all, such and so forth. But what I do find myself is different milestones, especially dealing with his children, him not being here because he was a very present father. His oldest son just turned 12. That's a whole preteens. His voice getting deeper. He getting taller. I'm like, oh Lord Jesus. And it just makes me think like, dang, I know my son will be a great dad in this moment. You know what I'm saying? and then he could be able to talk to his son on a different level now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's different things like that. It's the milestones that really, I think, make me really miss him a lot. But I don't set out to miss him on his birthday or Thanksgiving, because he liked Thanksgiving. He loved all of, the latter holidays. I don't set myself up for an appointment to be sad,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And then it'd be sometimes I'd be like, well, dang, why do I feel this certain way? It's because something's coming up and I didn't realize it.
Right. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, you
Yeah.
know. So it's I'm just like, oh my gosh. And then I had to sit down and I'm like, what is going on here? And then I think about it, and then Facebook has a thing of bringing memories.
It will catch you off guard every
And I'm like,
time.
yeah, right. But then I'd be like, oh, that's why, like that. Because your body, your subconscious remember. You may not be conscientious of it, but your subconscious remembers certain things. So it's really just learning how to stay in tune with yourself and really regulate, where you are and stuff. Because like when we were talking earlier about the do's and don'ts of what other people should say, one of the things that I look back at too, and I look over too, is as grievers, we have to grieve responsibly. And a lot of people don't look at that.
Say that again.
As grievers, we have to grieve responsibly.
Okay, break that down for us.
Meaning that just because you're grieving does not give you just cause to lash out at somebody.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? You have to be so self-aware and have the emotional intelligence to understand. I'm not saying that everybody is on that level yet. But I knew that when I was having a bad day, if you will, a character building day, if you will, a grieving day, if you will, whatever you want to call it, I would not speak to anyone because I didn't want to direct my anger or frustration or my out of sorts emotions on anyone unintentionally.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to be very careful when I was dealing with people as well. Mm-hmm. If I wasn't in the right mind space, my phone went on silent. I did not speak to anybody. I would acknowledge that, hey, I'm not in good space right now. I'll talk to you later.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to be able to recognize that, be self-aware of where we are.
Yeah. And be honest with those that are around you. Like, just be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, because I have a friend that just, unfortunately, her sister just transitioned last week due to cancer. And I called her today and I asked her, I said, hey, how are you doing? She said, oh, you know what? I'm fine. I'm fine. I said, okay, now be honest. Okay. And it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to be honest. Don't sit up here and cover it up to make me feel comfortable. It's not about me. If you're not okay, say, I'm not okay.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, all I got to do is just pull up on you. Just say the word. I'm pulling up on you. But when we got, before we got off the phone, her daughters got there. So I don't want to overcrowd her either.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll be making my way over to her house tomorrow.
I want to make some comments. I know we were talking about what our preference is, what people say in the first, 24, 48 hours, first week or whatever. And Kiana Johnson she was 50-50. She want to be around people and then she doesn't. Mm-hmm. But you know what? I probably need to do a Zoom, I guess, round table or a panel, because there's several people on here that I know that grief impacted them. Kiana and the transition of her mother, my friend Donita and the transition of her son. I think Marky was only 6 or 7, and then I saw Elder Kimberly Adams. She lost her son, the one I was trying to connect the two of you with, within the last year too. So, we might need to do some type of roundtable thing and kind of have that discussion and come
Yeah.
together to give some pointers and some strategies. Although people are going to grieve individually, grief is not a one size fit all.
Mm-mm.
And it may take me a month or two, a year, and it may take somebody else a little longer. But one thing that shouldn't happen is you grieve the rest of your life. Now, when I say grieve the rest of your life, I don't mean you don't have moments, you don't have triggers, you're not thinking about them. When I say grieve the rest of your life, like you have not moved on from the place of death, whatever that is, whether it's divorce, but mainly since we're talking transition of life, they died in 1988. You have not moved on. Like you stayed stuck where they were. And when you were talking about grieving responsibly, they lash out all the time. And then everybody forgives them or let it go or let it slide because it's like, oh, they lost their child. Oh, they lost their parent. Oh, they lost their sibling. And so we make excuses for it. So that person never gets better, never gets healed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to definitely speak to that. My friend Donita said that she agreed that the first year is hard, the holidays and birthdays and special occasions. But like she said, we can flip it so the anniversaries don't have to be so bad. She said for their aunt, what they did was her aunt recently passed away, and her daughters declared her birthday Vera Day. And she said they told the family to eat her favorite dessert that day and think of her apple pie and butter pecan ice cream. So there's different things we can do to help us get past those holidays and monumental moments. We don't, like we said, choose to be sad because we're going to miss them, that day. First thing you think about is calling them, I can't tell you how many times I picked up this phone to dial her number and remember like, oh shoot, you got to get it together, but you'll have those moments and that's okay. The only thing I would just speak to is the Bible talks about that we don't grieve as the world does, because the world grieves as if there is no hope. We have hope. We have hope, but we know it's also going to take time. And nobody can tell you your time.
Nope.
Nobody can tell you your time. You determine your time. Now, of course, there's like you might need to start therapy. Like I said, we 5 years out and you're stuck. Not that you don't have moments or you still miss them, because I don't think no matter who has gone, and I know people who lost children say you don't understand until you lost a child. People who lost parents, you don't understand until you lost a parent. Everybody got there, you don't understand until. But at the end of the day, there still is like a moment where, okay, I might need to start talking about this with someone because I'm not getting better. I'm not able to let go. I'm not able to move on. So when you have those signs, it's definitely time to reach out to a buddy, to a friend, to another loved one, to a professional, maybe therapy, counseling, or something. So we do want to make sure I say that. And you go now.
No, because what you were saying, like with your friend Danita, we do something on my son's birthday and we call it Donnell Day, and my family fly in from town. We have a big birthday celebration here at the house and we have a good time. And then to what you were saying about the being stuck, what I call that is the pit. What the acronym is pause and transition. It's pause and transition. It's the pit. And that's what breaking the mold is all about, is where we don't want you to stay in the pit. Because I equate it to where if you ever known somebody or been in the military of the army, right? And they built trenches to protect themselves from the enemy fire, right? But those trenches were never meant to stay as a permanent residence. It's a temporary residence. The pit is only a temporary residence.
So what did you call it?
The pit, pause in transition.
Okay, thank you.
But you're just staying right there. You can't, it's okay. You got to take a breath because you just had a whole human experience. You lost someone that's super close to you, whether it's your parents, whether it's a loved one, whether it's a spouse, an auntie, an uncle, a grandparent, whomever you're close to, whether it's a friend. I've lost really close friends unexpectedly. But we can't stay in that pit. You know, it's a temporary place. But a lot of us, where we get stuck, where you was talking about earlier and alluding to earlier, where it's been since 1988 and you're still there and it's 2025. You know, that's where it became a permanent residence, and that's a problem right there, because now you're just alive, you're not living. And in order to live, you're going to honor your loved one by living your life. Think, okay, if they were still here, what would they tell you? Go out there and do yourself, do what you got to do what God called you to do. Go out there and do whatever it is that you're supposed to do. Because one of the things I know with my son was like my pusher. And if I got fearful or scared about jumping out in faith and doing something, he was like, well, the only thing I can do is say no. Don't do it. So I get to those places in my life when I'm trying to do something, I'm like, it's like that little voice comes, like, do it, go for it, And so, I don't want it, because I know he wouldn't want me to stay in that pit, that pause. That pause, my heart is still beating, but I'm just standing still, staying stagnant. That's not the way God wants you for your life. And that's not the way that your loved one wants you for your life. They want you to move forward, go live, go further than what they went through. Grab the torch, like in the Olympics. They have the torch relay. You know what I'm saying? With the fire, beginning of the Olympics. Hey, carry my light. Keep carrying it. But carry it further than I carried it, because my number was called. It was time for me to go home for whatever reason, purpose that God had and saw fit in his plan for me to go. But carry my light and let's keep going.
Let's keep everything moving. Easier said than done.
It's very, yeah.
I want to bring this out. Earlier, you talked about the 16 different types of grief, and I wanted to name a few, and you can add some to it. Again, if you have a question you want to put out there, you can put it out, and we'll try to address it. But of course, we have what we call normal or acute grief, right? And that's the response to loss, which is characterized by like sadness, longing, and emotional pain. Then we have anticipatory grief. Anticipatory grief is when you kind of expecting them to pass. Let's just say you have someone and they say, oh, they only have 24 hours, 48 hours, or 3 months. And so then you become, you start to experience, you may start to experience sadness or anxiety. And then we have what we call complicated or prolonged grief, which is what we're talking about. And that's grief that extends for a period of time and significantly interferes with your daily life. You really can't move on. You can't go forward. You're stuck in the pit. And then we have traumatic grief. And that occurs when the loss is sudden, unexpected, or violent. And for me, my grief was traumatic. For my or for yours with the car accident, because I remember the post that you put on Facebook, the flyer asking, has anybody seen him? Has anybody seen his car? And that was for like at least 48 hours, right?
It was. I put it out. I had started looking for his accident. Happened at 3:54 a.m. Sunday morning, August 7th. I put the flyer out August 8th because I already started looking for him. And when we got to, once I completed a missing person report, that's when we put the flyer out. And then I didn't find him until the day he was missing for 2.5 days before I found where he was. And when I found where he was, I got a call from the chief neurosurgeon at 2:30. I would never forget. It was at 2:30 in the afternoon on August 9th, where they had to declare him deceased at 11:05 that morning.
I want to come back to that. Put a pin right there, because I want to come back to what you did with your son after his death in the hospital and in the final walk. I want to come back to that. disenfranchised grief, and that happens when society does not acknowledge or validate the loss. So for example, you have like a miscarriage, you have a loss of like an ex-partner or a loss of a pet. So we have that type of grief, and that can lead to feelings of isolation and shame. We also have what we call cumulative grief. That happens when multiple losses occur in a short period of time. I'm there now with cumulative grief from November to now. I think my count was
Another word for cumulative grief is compound grief, and
okay.
another word for
Just in
disenfranchised grief,
right.
ambiguous grief, and
Ambiguous.
let's go back to anticipatory grief, because I don't want people just to think about that in the terms of loss of a person, because anticipatory grief, it could also be correlated to a pending layoff. It could be a pending divorce. It can be all of that, not just a terminal illness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then then you have another one, and you may get to it, is collective grief. We've all dealt with collective grief.
Yeah.
When we hit that pain, when March 16th of 2020, when we shut down as a world, that was a different type of grief. And just seeing all of the death tolls on the news, and then we in the house, it was a lot of divorces going on that time. After that,
Yeah.
it was a lot of
and a lot of babies being made too.
And it was a lot of babies. And I don't know if you heard about the one babies, the twins that were born in England, and they were named Corona and COVID. So I was like, no. But so you have those type of grief. But I think too, what I want is, I'm pretty sure you're gonna go on the list. If you do, that's great. But I don't want anyone to think that you can't experience more than one type of grief at the same time.
Right. You can experience multiple grief at the same time, because I was dealing with traumatic grief and cumulative grief. Now, going back to the anticipatory grief, I got a letter never mind. We'll talk. Never mind. So yeah,
we'll talk later. But
then we got delayed grief.
Yeah, I dealt with delayed grief.
I did too. I had to, because when I had to deal
with it because of the legalities of my son's situation.
Yeah.
So grieving, but yet still I couldn't like full on grieve, because I'm still in fight mode at that time, because I had to deal with the police. I had to dealing with Atlanta police or DeKalb County police is a whole nother breed. Y'all gotta be really steadfast and on their necks. Okay. And then dealing with some certain things of just the legalities of it. So that can delay some things too. But go ahead.
But I also want to welcome my accountability partner, Shantae Mills. Thank you for sharing.
I love me, Shantae. Yeah.
But even with delayed grief, beyond it being like a time-sensitive thing, because, like, for example, my godfather passed in January. Well, we didn't have his funeral until February 21st because he was in the military. So that's one type of delayed grief. But you also got delayed grief when you have to be strong. So in my case, my mom passed. We found out while we were on our way to Costa Rica. We like, what do we do? I wanted to go back. My sister was like, no, the Lord already knew. Then we had her whole travel team there waiting to take their vacation. So we decided to go ahead on and go, announce that what happened, and we would go and do a memorial there for her. So I didn't have time to grieve. Plus, I was in school while I was in Costa Rica, sitting online for class. I came back that Sunday, wasn't feeling well. Monday, got diagnosed with COVID. Then I had to isolate, be by myself. Meanwhile, we had to plan her funeral. She needed programs. Who gonna do what? We gotta have food. It just boom, boom, boom. Then I went straight from there into my first conference ever, Mind Your Mind Summit. October 2023, went straight from there to the trip to South Africa. We had over 25 people. We took on a mission trip to South Africa. And then November came and it was just like, okay, breathe. But then I had a whole nervous breakdown after that, because it was just like I wasn't able to breathe, grieve. And so then when I did decide to slow down and take a breath, I literally lost it.
Mhm.
And then everything, not everything, but then there were all these triggers. Somebody just say, "Hey, how are you doing?"
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
like, so I do wanted to emphasize that delayed grief is not just, you know, um a long period of time. It just can be, you just can't do it, right then and there. You got to take responsibility.
Yeah,
Things are left on you. And with that, like I said, it can resurface unexpectedly or sometimes triggered by a new loss or life
yeah.
event. Then we have absent grief.
That
Absent grief.
my my oldest grandson dealt with that. And he just actually within the last couple of months has been showing signs of grief.
Mm.
My oldest grandson, because he got real quiet. Um, you just see the change in him. Absent grief is more, it's not an outward expression. It could be an internal turmoil going on, but they
Mm-hmm.
express it. So
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
absent grief.
When they have
Um,
to when they suppress it, when
yeah,
they're unaffected by the loss, right?
they put it like this. They seem unaffected, but it
Right.
is an effect.
Right. And
But
they're
it's
in denial.
outward expression.
Yeah, they're
You
in
know, it's
denial.
more internal, and you can't see it. You don't see them cry. You don't. My grandson didn't talk about his dad that much, anymore. Um, because in the beginning he talked about him, but then it was like once we hit the calendar year of 2023, but towards the end of 2023 is when he shut down.
Mm-hmm.
He shut down, and he would never bring up his father. He would never ask questions because in the beginning he was asking me questions. He would bring up him all kind of things, and but recently he started showing. So this past weekend it was just a one-on-one Honey and Silas day.
Mm-hmm.
We just spent time together. But and he talked about his dad.
Mm-hmm.
So he's really starting to come out of it because absent grief and you internalizing it, that is a very, very, very dangerous situation.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very dangerous situation.
And then we got inhibited grief.
Yep.
I figured we were going to touch on some of the same griefs.
Yeah.
And this person either consciously or unconsciously suppresses their grief.
Yep.
They avoid
Mhm.
expressing their grief.
And that happens a lot of times when people don't want to show emotions in front of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they be like, "Oh no, that don't. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good." You know, because they're not comfortable with those emotions. Because when you're going through grief, that's a very, very vulnerable state, and
Yeah.
not a lot of people are comfortable within their vulnerability.
Yeah.
So it's called inhibited grief, and that you're inhibiting, you're suppressing it, you're pushing it down. When it tries to come up, you push it down. When it
Right.
come out, you're pushing it down. You be like, oh no, no, I'm stronger than that. No, I'm a strong woman, or I'm a strong man. I'm a man. Men don't cry. No, I got to be strong for my family and all of this stuff. But it's going to come out in other ways, and that's
Yeah.
a dangerous situation.
Yeah. And the last one I have, and you may have some more, is secondary loss grief.
Yeah, yeah.
The grief experience over the ripple effects of the initial loss, like loss of financial security,
Yeah.
loss of identity,
Mhm.
relationships, loved ones, not
Yeah,
necessarily.
I experienced that when I got a divorce
Mm-hmm.
because now I'm nobody's wife, if you will. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not Mrs. Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and then you lose mutual friendships, because now the friends seem as though they got to pick a side.
Right.
Those are just some examples of secondary loss. Um,
Mm-hmm.
or like you were speaking of with the financial, now You got to figure out about if you got a house.
Yep, foreclosure, going through
You know,
foreclosure can
or you
cause.
might have to do a refinance to buy
Mhm.
the other person out, and you might not have the money to do it. You know, it could be so many different things. So now you got to sell it and split the cost. You know,
Right.
so it can, yeah. Secondary loss to me is about as great as the first loss.
Yeah. Yeah. Loss is loss,
Exactly, but
Loss
yeah,
is loss.
but if y'all ever y'all could just Google the 16 different types of grief, because it's a lot, and I think that we can all correlate, or rather, you know, identify with some form or fashion of grief, because I just don't want people to think that grief is just the dealing with the significance of a loss of a person, that is death of a
Right.
person, but it could be a death of a relationship, a death of a job. It could be loss upon loss upon loss upon loss. You'd be like, wait a minute, can I take a breath? Because that happened to us
Mm.
in my family. I'm telling you, it was just crazy. Because it was like every few months, the same. Now, the year that my son transitioned, that April, I lost my first cousin due to a debilitating disease. It
Mhm.
was unexpected. Then my son passed away in August, right?
Mhm.
So July, a week before, one of my other cousins in California was found unresponsive. He passed away. In the midst of me looking for my son when he was missing for 2.5 days, I lost a cousin to the same exact situation that my son passed away the day before we found my son.
Wow. I remember that.
She passed away in a head-on collision in a car accident. And the next day, I found out my son transitioned due to a car accident. So
Mhm.
you talking about compound grief or
Right.
collective, cumulative grief?
Yes.
That, oh my God, you be scared to breathe. You be like, okay, what else is going on here? And I had to pray like death is not upon my family.
Right.
You got
Right.
to start going down the
Excuse me.
road with it. And I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. We are not going down here. Because
Yeah.
even right before my son and my cousin, all of them, my aunt passed away from cancer. I'm telling you, it was a whole, that
A drive. I call it a drive by. A drive by.
2022, it's like death just came upon. He said, okay, it's time for you to go, you to go, you to go, you to go. You
And that
know,
was kind of like 2020 with the virus. It was
yeah.
people just having
Yeah,
lost.
'cause I lost a lot of family members that year, and I lost a lot of family members the year prior to it to similar symptoms of COVID. But yeah, it was a lot. It was I'm telling you, that's why I say with 2020, it was more of a collective grief because we all got touched
Mhm.
in some form of fashion.
Yes,
Whether
everybody.
we lost our jobs, whether we lost our homes, lost marriages, lost people. We all lost something in 2020.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
we lost,
definitely
I mean, just
collective.
dealing with social distancing. We lost the physical connection. Man, Zoom was my best friend.
I got sick of Zoom. I
I
got
got,
sick of
yeah,
Zoom.
I don't even too much care for it right now, but you know,
I can't tell you how many times I had to start dressing for work because I would forget and would be dressed from the top up and go to stand up. And on that note, listen, this has been really, really good. Charlene, thank you so much for accepting the invitation. The last thing I want to bring up before I give you a chance to kind of I want you to kind of leave us with some strategies or some mental health and wellness, or leave our audience with something that they can do or take away. Some last thing you would like to say. But I wanted to just briefly talk about the stages of grief. You have denial, you have anger, you have bargaining, you have depression, you have acceptance, and there are different models out there. And it doesn't necessarily have to happen in that order. but there are stages to grief. And when you find yourself grieving, it's probably good to at least recognize what stage am I in? And what is that looking like? What does that mean for me, as I'm grieving? So I just wanted to, I know we can't really dwell on that because the time has been well spent. This has been really good.
It's been good. It's been
we have to revisit this. And I think we need a group. Bring on a team. We can kind of talk
I've been thinking about starting one. So
Okay. So so is there one last thing you would like to say to our listening audience before we close out for this evening?
Yes. One of the major things I want to do is thank you. Thank you for having, bringing me on to have this conversation. Because I don't think grief is talked about enough. And I appreciate you even just having, the forethought to bring me on and let's talk about grief. And this conversation was amazing.
Yeah.
Not enough time, but it was amazing. But what I would love to say to your audience is that, don't stay in the pit. A lot of times we feel ourselves going into that downward spiral. And when you start feeling yourself going down into that spiral, downward spiral, it's time to call someone.
Mm-hmm.
Call that trusted friend. Call that, call that therapist. Because, baby, I will call my therapist in a minute. Call that therapist, speak about it, pray about it. But don't stay in the pit. Don't stay in that pause and transition, because your loved one wants you here to live your life out loud, wants you to live your life on purpose, wants you to live your life like there's no tomorrow. So let's go out here and live our life and not stay in that pit, that pause and transition. And I am just so ecstatic, y'all. I'm so ecstatic.
Yeah, this was good. We got a lot of comments out there. Cumulative grief can make people fearful of living. Now, they get scared and stop doing things and going play. Yeah.
So now you're gonna be a dead person walking.
Right. But we have to fight against that fear. That's right, Donita. That's like we can't. Yes, with COVID, Shantae, that was a lot. We couldn't even go to funerals. We couldn't even plan our loved ones' transition.
Yeah.
Elder Kimberly Adams, thank you for this discussion on grief. So helpful. Yes to the round table. Yay! Donita, yes to the round table. Kiana, yes to the round table.
Yeah.
People need to know.
You jump together.
You jump started it about people need to understand about grief and how to process it for themselves, but then also how to respond to others. You kind of jumpstart that, and it would be good to hear from different people what they expect or what would have helped them during their time. So we can be better people. So as we close out, I want you to let people know how they can get in contact with you. If you have an organization, anything, any events coming up, any books, anything, let us know. And so this will be your time before we transition out. Okay. And thank you so much for being bold and being strong. I know it takes a lot to, this is a touchy subject. It's a very mental health in and of itself, and especially mental illness is a touchy subject. But when you talk about loss of child, we expect to bury parents, but children, that we don't expect to. It happens, but we don't expect to. And so I thank you for being bold, being strong, and thank you for coming out here and encouraging others who may be dealing with grief, or who knows, we don't know what tomorrow holds, and they may need something that you said. Don't stay in the pit.
Oh, yeah.
How can we get in contact with you? You still doing your podcast? I know you said.
Yes, I'll actually be starting back up in April. It's Breaking the Mold LLC. I'm on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. You can follow me on Facebook as Charlene Smith. You can also contact me on Linktree / Charlene M. Smith. If you would like to be a guest on my podcast, I have that on there. I have a book called Naked and Unashamed, where I just share parts of my life. I am in the process of writing a book about the do's and don'ts of grief. How petty.
And then look, don't be petty in your book. Don't be petty. Don't be
No,
petty.
I'm gonna be petty. You know what? I'm gonna have you proofread it, so I'm not being petty. But I'm not gonna be petty. No, it's gonna be you know, I'm just gathering information. So, but but yeah, you can always follow me on Facebook at Charlene Smith. Instagram, I am at Charlene Smith 0223. So you can follow me there, but you can always go onto my link tree at Linktree Charlene M. Smith, and you'll find all my pages there. My Instagram, YouTube, my Facebook page, my books, and yeah, and everything else that I'll be working on. I'm working on a grief app to build a community, and then I'm also building a physical community for grief to support everyone dealing with grief, so we can have an open forum.
Okay.
Yeah, I thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I was trying to keep up with all your handles and everything.
Just go to Linktree /
Hold on. Link.
Yeah. So it would be linktr.ee.
Hold on. It wants to do what it wants to do.
I know.
linktr.ee.
/ capital CHARLENE, capital M, capital SMITH. And you'll find everything there. That way you don't have to do FB, IG. Everything is right there.
Whew, I think I did it right. LINKTR /EE /
That's it. Yep, that's it.
Let's see. I did it right.
Yep, you did it right.
All righty. Well, you guys, whoa, I almost knocked the light off. We are over time. Thank you so much for each and every one of you that participated, that came out. Oh, wow, Dr. Jackson. That was my first guest, Dr. Jackson. What did he say? He said, grief unfolds like a winding journey filled with countless beginnings and pauses along the way. It's a complex path where you find yourself moving forward only to take a step back time and again. Yes, and he too is well acquainted with grief. I'm going to put this roundtable together. I'm going to see if you guys
with it
at the end of April. I think I have a Monday or two in April and I'll see if you all are available.
Right now, I'm available.
Discussion. I think discussion needs to continue. We need to revisit it later down the road. So thank you so much. I appreciate you sharing. And you guys, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming on. Please hit like, hit share. Let everybody know about Mind Your Mind Mondays with your host, Dr. Kimberly McKenzie, your mind doctor. God bless you. Do enjoy Jesus for the rest of your day.